Texas just ended it for all illegal children effective immediately, don't care who it offends. As the left continues to evoke the words of Holocaust survivor and author of Night Elie Wiesel in stating that no human being is illegal in their misguided crusade for open borders, states are beginning to fight back. As the left continues to evoke the words of Holocaust survivor and author of Night Elie Wiesel in stating that no human being is illegal in their misguided crusade for open borders, states are beginning to fight back. In the wake of the deaths of Kate Steinle and Molly Tibbetts at the hands of illegal aliens, it is important to understand just what these people mean with the words they use. Illegal is defined as contrary to or forbidden by law, especially criminal law. Alien is defined as belonging to a foreign country or nation. A foreigner, especially one who is not a naturalized citizen of the country where they are living. By the very definition of the words, these people who defy immigration laws and cross U.S. borders without invitation and in defiance of the laws, can be nothing else. They are not legally here, nor are they immigrants by definition as they have not immigrated. They have invaded without invitation. In 2017, Federation for American Immigration Reform Warfare's The Fiscal Burden of Illegal Immigration on United States Taxpayers report put the total cost of illegal immigration at $135 billion a year, while claiming undocumented immigrants paid only $19 billion a year in taxes. That leaves a net cost to local, state and federal governments of $116 billion a year. FAIR estimates that there are roughly 12.5 million illegal aliens in the country. That cost often comes at the expense of our own children and their education when much-needed resources are diverted to educate illegal alien children who many times do not speak English, have very little formal education, and are served through free lunch programs and other taxpayer-funded services. Now the state of Texas is fighting back, refusing to allow state funding to educate illegal alien children housed in federal detention centers. According to the Houston Chronicle, Texas school districts and charter school groups cannot use state funding to provide teachers and other resources to school-aged children housed in migrant shelters, the Texas Education Agency said, throwing into question whether states have a role in educating minors who cross the border illegally. Officials with Southwest Key, one of the largest non-profits operating shelters for migrant children in Texas, said the agency's stance jeopardizes partnerships the shelters have formed with at least 2 traditional school districts, one of which began in 2013. Prior to the T letter sent to the Pro-Mesa Public Schools on August 21, the Harlingen Consolidated Independent School District had received about 5 years of state funding to place 1 teacher and 1 paraprofessional in the Southwest Key shelter located within their boundary. This year, the Associated Press reported San Benito SIST sent 18 of its teachers and technological resources to Southwest Key's Casa Padre shelter, hoping to receive an additional $2.8 million in state funding by including the shelter's students in its enrollment numbers. Salvador Cavazos, Vice President for Education Services for Southwest Key, said the shelter group has nixed its agreement with San Benito SIST, meaning all 18 teachers will leave the shelter. Cavazos is working with Harlingen SIST to work out a possible cost-sharing arrangement. Cavazos said most of the students at his group's shelters eventually will transfer to traditional or charter schools once they are released to family members and await asylum or immigration hearings. Partnerships with education groups would have helped ease that transition, he said. I think the ones that ultimately are affected adversely are the youth that are in the shelters, Cavazos said. Because we're in a partnership, we would have been able to provide additional resources, partner with credit-bearing institutions, provide grades and help them achieve credits go to other public schools. The T's decision comes after President Donald Trump's administration separated families under a zero-tolerance policy for migrants who cross the border illegally. Parents served brief prison time for the misdemeanor before being transferred to immigration detention, and their children were placed in federal shelters for unaccompanied minors. Facing widespread condemnation, Trump rescinded the policy in June, but reuniting parents with their children has proved difficult, and nearly 600 children remain separated from their parents and in federal shelters. That has added to an already high number of unaccompanied children in shelters, an influx which began in 2013 as many came here escaping violence and poverty in Central America. Between October and July, more than 41,300 children have come here alone, according to federal statistics, and usually stay in government shelters for about a month before many are released to family members here. Some can stay for longer if they do not have relatives here or the government decides it is not in their best interest to release them. The wave of minors across the southern border has raised questions about what role, if any, states should play in educating those children. In a statement, the T said that responsibility falls squarely on the shoulders of the federal government. The U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement mandates school-aged children housed in shelters must have their educational needs assessed within 3 days of arrival, receive 6 hours of structured instruction on weekdays and receive special education services if they are eligible. While the T said schools still could voluntarily provide help to shelters, school leaders across the state say their schools have been dealing with declining state funding for years, circumstances that make it unfeasible to pay to provide services to students who are not technically enrolled in their districts. Cavazos said Southwest Key and other shelters already provide education services to school-aged children in their care. At the shelters he oversees, students receive 6 hours of instruction during weekdays. The classes are self-paced, and Cavazos said the teachers who work with migrant students all hold bachelor degrees. Michael A. Olivas, who teaches immigration and education law at the University of Houston, said the services provided by Southwest Key alone are inadequate to meet students' needs. It is a detestable lie that they're being educated. They have some books, they have some adults who are not always certified teachers, but they're not offering real classes, Olivas said. Would you put your kid in a class like that is self-paced with no certified teachers? Cavazos disagreed. He said that as a former teacher, principal and superintendent, including at Goose Creek SIST in Greater Houston, he knows what a good education looks like and has seen excellent teaching in Southwest Key's shelters. We have to remember the structure of how these young people enter the country and end up in a shelter. It is the structure that is in place in the U.S. It isn't an option for them to go to a public school, Cavazos said. I'm not sure it's such a good thing.